Hello, Billy Reeves here. Welcome to the Kscope podcast roundup of 2021. We'll hear from all of our chums from this year, Bruce Soord, the multi-award winning The Anchoress, Tangerine Dream and others. But I'm going to start with something that perhaps should have happened in 2021 and didn't because of the obvious reasons, to wit Gazpacho playing live from the forthcoming album Fireworking at St.Croix. This is Gazpacho and Fireworker.
Come closer, I'm the Lord of pseudo-thinking. The statue starts to weep, my heart's a Geiger counter. You should be crawling on your knees for the divine announcer.
From the live stream and film Fireworking at St. Croix, that's Gazpacho and Fireworker, that is coming out on the 11th of March as a 4 CD book set featuring a 48-page hardback coffee table book, or a Blu-ray with bonus material, or double vinyl, or a single CD, or a download on the 11th of March. And all being well, the band will be touring throughout Europe this year. Dates have been announced. Now, way back in the first part of 2021, I spoke to Richard Barbieri, probably most famous for being part of Japan and Porcupine Tree, two of the most fascinating art groups this country has ever produced. He was due to release a sumptuous album in the style of Planets and Persona, his critically acclaimed previous album for Kscope, but things took a little bit of a different turn. Under a Spell was recorded in his own studio alone a lot of the time, inspired by fever dreams and the four walls that surround us all. So I asked Richard about the dream-like quality of the album and whether the fact that doing most of it alone had inspired its dreamlike right brain qualities.
That's the way it had to be. It wasn't the album I was intending to make. I wanted to do a follow-up to Planets and Persona and kind of make that a very kind of external experience, like record in different studios across Europe, have a larger kind of band and possibly have strings and woodwind and, quite an ambitious, expansive album. And suddenly, with the COVID, the walls started closing in. The music became this more kind of self-contained, bit more claustrophobic, kind of atmospheric piece, let's say.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of doing that?
Well, in terms of working with musicians, the advantage of being there and being with them in the studio is that you can make very quick and correct decisions. So it would only take me 5 seconds to say, this is really sounding good, but that part isn't working, and what we need to do here is this and that. And we could move things along so quickly. Whereas if you have a remote session with somebody, it's very up in the air. In the end, you've really got to just let them do what they do.
the title track of Richard Barbieri's LP, Under a Spell. Catherine Ann Davies, professionally known as the Anchoress, up next. I don't think I've ever seen press quite like this. One of the albums of the year in the Sunday Times, Prog Magazine Album of the Year, a best-ofs in Record Collector line of Best Fit, Mail on Sunday and so on. And most importantly, probably, one of my favourite records of the year. Not the words of me, but the words of Sir Elton John. I spoke to Catherine earlier this year and asked her about the title of the LP.
So the line "The Art of Losing" is the opening line from a poem by Elizabeth Bishop, who was an American poet who was writing in the 50s and 60s, around the same time that Sylvia Plath and Robert Lowell and Anne Sexton, all the really well-known confessional poets were. But what she was doing was something really different. So she was a lesbian in a time where obviously it was not okay to be that. So she was very good at kind of occluding her autobiography and her work, whilst at the same time kind of letting it seep through in unexpected ways. And she has this poem called One Art that kind of explores the idea that we as human beings can get better at loss and at grief, etc. We try and impose meaning on it because we're always looking for meaning in the things around us. So I think my impulse was to try and find some meaning in it. I think ultimately I came out the other side of it realising that there was no organising principle to my unfair amount of shit that was delivered to me in the preceding years. But, at a point in my journey, that was my preoccupation, trying to make sense of it all, trying to see whether it was something I was, continually encountering baby loss because I was supposed to learn something from this, that I was supposed to get better at dealing with it each time. I was supposed to approach it a different way. And so this poem, The Art of Losing Isn't Hard to Master, is about revisiting all these various losses, from lost keys to lost houses to lost lovers, and she kind of tries to just equate them all on the same level, obviously the irony being the killer last line of the poem. Although it may look like write it disaster, it's about that kind of impulse as writers, I guess, not to want to admit that we are facing something that is unimaginable and unmanageable as well.
Think
Lauded by the quality daily and Sunday press, #1 in the Apple Music charts. All the singles were playlisted by Six Music, interviewed by Sir Elton John, Gary Kemp, lauded by her peers, Catherine Ann Davies, The Anchoress, The Art of Losing. What an album. Up next, our old friend Bruce Soord, the Pineapple Thief frontman, who released 2 albums on Kscope this year. The first being the Soord Sessions, a series of acoustic performances recorded live in Bruce's attic studio. He's since moved, though.
It's my new studio. It's quite a big commute. It's about 30 seconds.
Right, so is it in the garden then?
It is. It's at the bottom of my garden. So it's really nice. I'm looking out now, the sun's shining. And, you know, I've seen my little daughter running around as I'm making rock history. So I couldn't ask for more, really. But yes, so after 16 years in my attic studio, I tell you, it took a long time to clear everything. I found all kinds of
insect
stuff. Yeah, as I was getting out there. But so quite aptly, the Soord Sessions was the last thing I did.
You caught me in the black light. There was no way out for us. I thought it'd be a matter of time, but you lost your head. You follow me, but I am out of sight. Did everything I could to get you back into my light. It's not how I remember it. You sold me out before I had time to fight. No, it's not how I remember it. You cornered me and knocked me out. You follow me, but I am out of sight. You follow me, but I am out of sight. I never wanted any comeback to crawl into your light. It's not how I remember it. Not how I remember it. It's not how I remember it. If I had known what it's all about, someone told me to work it out. I live in this frequency, a frequency just for me. Scattered voices, not one that I could say is close enough for me to make it out. No words that I can care about. This is a world of silence. This is a world where you are safe. Yeah, I am lost in this frequency. It's a frequency just for me. Just scattered voices, not the ones that I betrayed. into my light. You caught me in the black light. It was one way out for you. I knocked you out. Is that how you remember it?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Versions of The Truth, The Pineapple Thief from the Soord sessions 1 to 4. More from The Pineapple Thief later. Now, vocalist Daniel Tompkins releases records on Kscope under his own name as part of Tesseract, more from them later, and along with Jordan Bethany sharing vocal duties as White Moth Black Butterfly. Now, I've spoken to many of the Kscope artists over the last 18 months, 20 months or so about the effects of the pandemic and Brexit on live touring. Daniel Tompkins and Tesseract are very adept at new media, as you probably know. And when I'd previously spoken to Dan, he was very optimistic about the future of live touring. So this gave me the opportunity to ask him if he's still optimistic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't wait to get back on the road. I think it's going to be exciting. I mean, there's nothing you can compare to performing in front of a live audience. I'm sure you hear many artists say that, and that's never going to go away. You know, and getting out there and seeing the world, it's an amazing thing. I am excited about, you know, the possibilities of doing online shows. I feel like there's a lot more that you can achieve. I mean, if you think, if you look at where gaming is going, for example, VR experiences. Imagine that you could put on a VR headset and be on stage watching your favorite artist as opposed to in the crowd. That's the future of live online shows, I'm telling you.
Body
Beautiful stuff. That's the closing track, Spirits, from White Moth Black Butterfly's album, The Cost of Dreaming, which came out in the spring. Always enjoy having a chat with Giancarlo Erra. His album Departure Tapes came out on Kscope this year, and as usual the conversation got round to the contextualising and conceptualising of abstract instrumental music.
I'm not interested in giving too many details. I know what every track means for me, but I really like the idea that everyone can read and can feel their own story.
Don't you? I know what you mean. Don't you feel though that sometimes, I think you probably got the balance quite right on this, but sometimes perhaps the listener needs to be taken by the hand a little bit, just sort of like gently pushed in a direction so they can join you in that journey. Would that be fair?
Yeah, absolutely. This is why I really like this is why I do sometimes videos. For example, when tracks are released before the full album is out. This is the only reason why I like to do videos, and I like to do it most of the times. I like to do them myself because the visual part, it is very important to just give a context. If you well, more than a context, an idea of what is going to, of what are the feelings that I'm trying to convey, if you want. And the same thing is with, with cover art, artwork and stuff. This is why I always like to do it myself, because it is very much linked to what you're saying. I'm not doing too much into the music or into the lyrics. I'm just doing it into these things. And then obviously in the album, track listing for me, for that thing, it is really crucial. When I do track listing, I'm not thinking about, I don't know, should I start with a long track or should the second track be upbeat? Whatever, I don't care about all the stuff. Basically, track listing is important because, as you say, it is really important for me to just present immediately what I'm trying to convey and then walk hand in hand with the listener through all the tracks. And this is why, for me, the album format actually is quite important.
Giancarlo Erra. That is entitled Previous Tape from his album Departure Tapes. Right, slight change of mood now. Beggs, Holtzman and Blundell from Stephen Wilson's band released an album in the summer on Kscope. The album was called Fragments. They called themselves Trifecta. It's a great album of jazzy, funky, KPM style workouts, a real joy. And this meant it was time to speak to Nick Beggs, and therefore to grip myself tightly.
I once bought a kitten and its name was Spot. Its name was Spot. Its name was Spot. I once brought a kitten and its name was Spot. It smelt a lot. Its name was... just can't get any inspiration today. Billy Reeves, why are you calling me at this strange hour? I was about to have a lie down.
It is, I guess it is a strange hour, isn't it? Because it's neither first thing in the morning, it's neither the afternoon. This is the sort of time of day where you would definitely never eat any food.
If you were in a death metal band, it's probably the time of day you'd sacrifice virgins at the stake.
I really like your record, Beggsy. I'm going to call you Beggsy through this like we're old mates and we play Sunday football. I think it's one of the best records I've ever heard.
You need to talk to my wife.
Why? What now?
Yeah, well, she says it's the worst thing she's ever heard.
Why?
Because she's an 80s kind of a girl. And I think... I just think we've hit that point in our relationship in which she's just going, oh no, not another fucking record. I think when you put musicians together or people who think they can play, they They just want to start rubbing their willies together, and that's basically what happened. We used a technique called "How pissed off can you make the sound crew?" So we would, during rehearsal, during sound checks for Stephen Wilson, we'd do the 2, maybe 3 tracks, because Steve hates doing sound checks. So he wants to get off and go back and watch Game of Thrones as quickly as possible. But we said, okay, listen, he's gone, and all the sound crew are standing around going, bloody jazz club. Can't they piss off? We want to have our dinner. And we're like, making all these sounds. And look, I'm looking at the guitar tech, and he's going, and it's becoming really gargoylean. And I'm thinking, this is great.
Trifecta, Proto-Molecule, and the album is entitled Fragments. Now, we spoke to Daniel Tompkins earlier on, the vocalist of Tesseract. Here's Amos Williams, the bass player of said group, and talking of the concert film, the stream, the live album, how it's all going to fit in to the touring cycle in the future. Tesseract took that to a different level this year with Portals. Here's Amos.
But I think it's great because it means you can have all those people that you just cannot get to see. So, for example, our fans in Japan or in Korea or in China. Because I think at first people felt that it was a bit of a short-change scenario where it wasn't a live show. So watching this on TV, why should I pay for this? Which is another reason why we really tried to add something different, because we realised the limitations of it. People not only accepted it, but embraced it. And I think there needs to be a visceral element when you're out there touring, or people expect more. It's almost not a show if you're not getting covered in the band sweat when they move, if that makes sense. You know, to some people, they're watching this on their phones. But I do feel this will remain as part of the future of touring, but it certainly won't replace it.
Tesseract from Portals, their concert movie stream live album, and that is entitled King. Now, the Pineapple Thief had to postpone their tour in support of their album Versions of the Truth, so they also had a go at the live concert stream movie album. Theirs was a concert in the round entitled Nothing But the Truth. Here's Bruce to explain the concept, how it all went, and who was involved.
George Blacktide, who's done all of the Pineapple Thief videos, I think, since Dissolution. So all the videos that we've done, he's done. So, he's just such a talented guy. He's one of those rare people where you can just say, George, we need this doing, and just trust him to go away and come up with the goods and just deliver something that's, as you've seen, just looks amazing. So he came up with this idea of this circular track. And we were like, well, aren't you going to start to feel a bit sick? You know, if it's going round and round Bruce all the time. And and in the end, we just said, no, George wouldn't suggest something if it wasn't going to work. And that was it. He came up with the whole concept. We booked this big soundstage in Bedford. It's the same place that King Crimson and Stephen Wilson do all their pre-production. It's basically this big hangar. We picked the coldest day of the year. It's -5, and so this room, it looks really warm, doesn't it? But in the room it was freezing. But luckily, we soon warmed up when we started rocking. Obviously, one of those things where you just pray that it's going to work, and it did, because we only had one shot, and it was a lot of work, a lot of pre-production, so a lot of money actually.
should know you put them in me. I guess I knew this all along. I hurt you, 'cause I got demons. I got demons. 'Cause I got demons.
Pineapple Thief. That is entitled Demons, the Nothing But the Truth version. Now, I think it's an indisputable fact that Tangerine Dream pretty much invented electronic music. Edgar Froese starting the outfit in West Berlin in 1967, inventing many of the tropes and styles that we associate with abstract synthesized sounds and dance music. Now, Edgar, of course, we lost in 2015, but Tangerine Dream endure with his and his family's blessing, with Torsten Kirschning and Hishoko Yamane now joined by virtuoso keyboard player Paul Frick. They have an album out on Kscope right now entitled Probe 628, which is essentially a precursor of the full album which is coming out next year, which will be entitled Raum. So this gave me an excuse to catch up with Paul, Torsten and Hoshiko in their studio in Berlin. And of course I started by asking Paul how he got involved and invited.
So we were a bunch of people having champagne or something similar, and we were just talking, and I was like, you were on Tangerine Dream, and we had a nice chat, and after a while we actually figured out that we already knew each other from almost 20 years before. Last century really, because we both studied composition at the UDK, University of the Arts in Berlin, and knew each other from the cafeteria, and but looked very different, and so that was like the coincidence that made us meet. And then it was a longer process because Torsten and I just started to make a bit of music, and he invited me actually for as a guest musician for Tangerine Dream, which they often do, which was in the end of 2018. And yes, so it's been a process of roughly 3 years of all that music and that universe getting closer and closer. It basically started with just noticing that first it was Torsten and me, noticing we have a good chemistry of improvising together. Yeah, then I met all the rest. I met Hoshiko and Ulrich and Bianca. And I don't know, it was just basically a mutual musical love affair.
That's so lovely to hear. All the great British ideas happen in a pub. All the great German ideas happen in a university cafeteria.
Definitely, but then also with a glass of champagne in the hand. Let's say the German and the British in this, there's at least alcohol involved.
Tangerine Dream from the precursor album, the Taster album, Probe 6 to 8. That's entitled Raum, and that is the Grand River mix thereof. And the full album, the new Tangerine Dream studio album Raum, is out next year, and we'll be hearing more of that interview in a future Kscope podcast. Right, that's me done. Happy Christmas if you're celebrating it. Happy New Year. Do stay safe, and I'm sure we're all going to have a great year together next year. There's loads of brilliant Kscope music coming out in 2022. I've heard some of it. It's amazing. It's also great to speak to all of these fine artists. I've learnt much about how to make music and how to be in a band, although I learnt quite a lot more about how to be in a band this year, or indeed how not to be. And there will be more Kscope podcasts next year. Do please like and share the podcast wherever you may find it. That helps spread the word, and also comment as well if you like. And thanks as ever to my producer Scott Robinson. Talking of music, next year Paul Draper has a new album coming out on Kscope next year, as you may have seen. It's entitled Cult Leader Tactics. This is the first single from it, entitled Omega Man, which features our erstwhile leader and the man who gave Kscope its name, Mr. Stephen Wilson, on vocals alongside Paul. Billy Reeves here. Speak to you next year. Ta-ta.
Summer rain, they serve to take me back.